Hello and welcome to another episode of My Favourite Game from the Honest Football Podcast. I'm Charlie Betts and joining me today is former Rangers, Aberdeen and Leeds fullback David Robertson. David made a whopping 352 appearances. He's won the Scottish Premier League 6 times in a row, the Scottish League Cup 4 times and the Scottish Cup 4 times. Since retirement due to injury, David has gone into management and most notably at Real Kashmir in India, of which there is a cracking documentary on the BBC. We talked to David about his formative years as a player under Sir Alex Ferguson, what it's like on your first day at a club like Rangers, playing with the likes of Ali McCoist, Paul Gascoigne and Brian Laudrup, being at a Premier League club and the impact of a career-ending injury. And we also talk in detail about his journey through the lower leagues as a manager and how he really ended up at Real Kashmir. David is a true gentleman and I can't thank him enough for giving up his time to record this episode with us. We hope you enjoy the episode and remember to like, share and subscribe in the button below. If you want to keep up with content with what we've got coming out, then just follow us on Twitter at HonestFootball3. Thanks again for David obviously giving up his time for this episode and we really hope you enjoy it. Here is My Favourite Game with David Robertson. And I'm delighted to say that David's with us now. David, thank you so much for joining us today. I do apologise. I've obviously hit you with a multitude of technical errors and stuff, so I really appreciate your patience with all of this. But yeah, thanks for joining us today.
No problem. Perfect. No worries at all.
So obviously, we're going to go into your career, and you had, such an illustrious and amazing career, and obviously, the things post-career in terms of your management and all of that. But for me, what I want to sort of start off with, really, and we do with every guest, is where your sort of football journey began. Like, what's your first ever memory of football, whether it be as a kid sort of playing or watching or anything like that, really?
Yeah, I was. I didn't really start playing till eight years
Right.
old, which I think in Britain's quite late. And it was my dad used to try and get me involved in football, play football, but I did, for some reason I wasn't interested. And it wasn't until Aberdeen beat Celtic 2-1 in the League Cup final in 1976 that they did the open top bus. My mum and dad took me down, bought flags and banners and hats and stuff. And after that, I was hooked on football. So I think throughout my career, there's been a lot of things that I think to myself, if this hadn't happened and that hadn't happened, probably might not have had the career I had. There's been a lot of luck and different changes as I've gone along. But that's the first time that I really started to get interested in football. And I suppose I was lucky that Aberdeen in those years were quite a successful team. So after that, I just decided that I wanted to play football. And in those days, there was only 2 TV channels. There was nothing else to do. All I ever did was play football in the back garden or go and play in the streets, just like every other kid in those days.
Yeah.
How I got. That's why I really sort of got involved in football. Or took a
Do you remember your first game, like as a child or anything like that, or?
Well, I do. It's very funny because I hadn't played that much. I wasn't that good. So at the primary school, I think I was about 8 or 9. I got a trial for primary school, and I don't think there was many boys did it. And I didn't make the team, so I didn't get in the team. Obviously, because I was a little bit embarrassed, to be honest. And then the day before the first game of the school team I meant to play in, I think someone was sick, so I got called in. And I actually was a sub, came on as a sub, and I actually think I got subbed off again. I was that bad. So, and so I think that part of me, even through my whole career, I've always felt that even if I played at good levels, I've always felt I don't belong here. I shouldn't be here. I always have that. Maybe I don't have enough confidence in myself as a player. I just felt I was lucky and fortunate, and every time I went a new dressing room, whether it was Leeds United or Aberdeen or Rangers, I thought to myself, why am I here? Because I don't belong here.
Yeah, no, I think we obviously made up for sort of lost time in that sense, like you say, then going on to play for your country and etc., which we'll sort of move on to in a bit. But that sort of bit, obviously, I know you made your debut at Aberdeen at around 17. That sort of build up to it before that, what's that like, sort of being around a club, maybe in more of the youth setup, and then that transition into the first team? What's that like?
Yeah, well, there was no real youth team in those days. There was no under 8s, under 9s, under 10s. There was none of that stuff. You played at primary school, and then once you went to secondary school, on a Monday night, Aberdeen would take that same team in on a Monday night and train and play, and then eventually they'd pick schoolboys. So in those days it was schoolboy form. So I think I was 13 or 14 when I signed.
Yeah.
And then as soon as you signed, in Easter holidays, summer holidays, winter breaks, whatever, Alex Ferguson would take all the S forms in. And, there's times you'd actually play with like Gordon Strachan, and that time they were, winning European Cup winners' cups and stuff. And we were fortunate enough we got to train with those guys. So Fergie was always about young players and giving them the opportunity or getting them around certain things. And obviously, as I said, there was no youth team, so you play boys club, and I ended up starting to play reserve games at the age of 14 and 15. So you're playing against these. I used to play against these old seasoned pros that are coming to the end of their career, and they're hanging on to get paid. And I remember my first game was against St Johnstone. It was this thug player called Don McVicker, and in those days I was a striker, and I just, you could just tell just night and day. But as I say, I think Aberdeen was great. I think Aberdeen and Dundee United were very good clubs in those days. They invested a lot in the youth, and then when I eventually got my first team chance, it was basically Tommy McQueen, who ended up going to West Ham. He broke his leg, and Alex Ferguson just put me straight in the team. But the one thing he did was good at. He used to take a lot of the young players in the squad, so it was a home game. So he took us in the squad. In those days, there were only 2 subs, so you maybe bring about 18 in the squad, and that you've got no chance of getting in. And then I think it was 45 minutes before the kickoff, or an hour before the kickoff, he told me I was a sub. And I think he did that because I didn't have any time to think. And even then, I thought, I'm a sub, there's no chance I'm getting got on. And he put me on with 25 minutes to go and against Hamilton. And then after that, I played the rest, almost, virtually every game almost I played the rest of that season.
Did you have much contact with Sir Alex? Obviously, I know in terms of once you started playing, but like throughout the week at sort of training and that, was he quite sort of in and around it, or was he a bit more?
No, he was good. I mean, there was the way Pittodrie set up. There's a home dressing room here, away dressing room here, and then they've got the coach's office. So they can watch in the doors. There was no door on it, so they could watch everything that's going on. So he knew everything that was on. And very hands-on. There's times when you'd have in the 80s, the big thing was to have the Charlie Nicholas perm at the back, the big bushy perm, and he'd come in and he'd shout at you and tell you to go in the room and you need to get that haircut. And then the next day you take about an inch off of it, and then he tells you to go and get a haircut. He sends you up, and he's just you can tell how he's been successful. He's just into everything, and like I said before, when I was training on a Monday night at the age of 12, 13. Alex Ferguson would stand and watch the training at night. He'd go and watch, Highland League games, amateur games all over. But the one thing I find about Alex Ferguson, he's in those days anyway, he's a perfectionist. So even if you win a game in the first team, you'd win a game 5-0 or whatever, he would still, if you make a mistake, he'd let you know about it. He'd give you a bit of a hard time. But the memorable one for Alex Ferguson was when we played. Like I said, there was no youth team, but they actually brought a team together of S forms and what have you to play in the Scottish Cup. And it was only like a tournament, so if you lost a game, you're out. In this particular time, we actually got to the final, and they were playing at Pittodrie, and it was about 4 or 5 days after Aberdeen's first team won the league. They won it against Hearts at Tynecastle, so they wanted to present the trophy to the team. So there was about 15,000 come to watch our cup final because they presented it. So, and because it was at S forms, I think I was 14 or 15 at the time. It's under 18, and there was the Aberdeen Celtic Cup final. So we had an assistant manager called Willie Garner, and he came in and he says, "Look, first team's here, Alex Ferguson's here. There's a big crowd. Let's go out here and do, put a good account for ourselves, win the cup, and what have you." So, half time we were 3-0 down at half time.
Oh no!
Fergie, Willie Garner comes in and he's talking away about, okay, guys, come on, it's a big night, no more goals, damage limitation, all that kind of stuff. And as he's saying that, the doors virtually burst open, and Fergie comes in and he goes around every single player. I say there was 14, 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old, and he never missed anybody. Or he just crucified everybody. And it felt as if it was 5 minutes, but it probably lasted about 60 seconds. And he slaughtered everybody and walked out. And we won 5-3. And the funny part is that he was the first person to be celebrating with the team. And I think at that point, that's when it really hit home that the winning part of it, the mentality, and that's how I admit that day was almost like, well, we're beat. And if Ferguson hadn't came in, we would have lost. And he came in, and it was just incredible, the turnaround. He just gave us a little bit of belief, because he kept going on about, remember who you're playing with for, and remember the badge on your jersey. And we went out there and, basically did the impossible.
Yeah, I think as any player, whether it's at grassroots or obviously at the elite level where you are, I think as long as you know where you stand with someone in terms of a manager, and that's always something I suppose everyone's always said about Alex Ferguson. Whether you agree with what he said or not, at least you know where you stood with him, didn't you? In that sense, all the time.
Yeah, no, he was good, and I think he was very obviously hard on discipline. There was a time when I was on the ground staff, I was like an apprentice for about a year. And what they used to do, him and Archie Knox used to have play this game called Tips on a Friday afternoon.
Right.
So it was underneath the family stand, and there's like painted goals on the walls, and it's like, I think it was 1 touch or 2 touch or whatever, and you just used to just smash the ball. So the two of them would play, and all the apprentices would have to stand and watch. So or stand or watch, and then what he'd say is he'd pick someone to referee the game.
Right.
So you know what's going to happen. Whoever loses is going to make you run or do something. We were doing that. And at the end of it, I think Fergie lost. Archie must have won. And he comes in and he says to, it was about 4 of us, he says, you and you're going to wash my car. You're going to be able to wash my car. And it was like winter time, and it was getting dark. So it must be about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, because these games were on forever. So it's winter time, it's beginning to get dark. So he says, okay, off you go. So we go and get the bucket of water. And because he goes and watches about hundreds of games a week, he's got so many flies in the front of his car that he can never get it off. And I remember it was a silver Mercedes. So we got out, typical, we were 16-year-old, we got out with the buckets, sponges and whatever. There's 4 of us, Robert, Scott, I think Malcolm Thompson, myself. So we were standing there, and it's getting dark, and we're thinking, right, what are we going to do? So we threw the bucket of water on first, and we thought, right, he's never going to notice it's going to get dark. So we went back inside, put the buckets, and there's 2 doors. It's like a long corridor. So there's like 2 big doors before you can get out. So you open the first door, and we're sort of standing like, what do we do? What do we do? Then we get out the first door, and there's 1 more door to go. And as we're going there, all you hear is the door, "Oh, you, oi, oi, oi!" So we're going. And it was almost like, what do we do? What do we do? And then we thought, we just go. So we just ran out. So Robert, I took the bus in those days, and 2 others took the bus, but Robert had his dad's car. So outside the gate at Pataudry, we ran into Robert's car, and we're all hiding like underneath the window. And then you were looking up, and you can see him. He's out there, he's running at the bus stop, he's running everywhere. It's like he's just taxi on, and he's running out. So there was no mobile phones in those days. So so because Robert had his dad's car, he was home quicker. It took me 2 buses to get home in Scott. So it took us a lot longer. So it never. But by the time Robert got home, his mum, Ferguson had called his mum and told him he has to go back, and he ended up having to wash the car himself.
Really? I suppose, like you say, he's diligent, isn't he? In that sense, that's incredible. That just the.
Yeah, but you know what? Everybody has so much respect for him, and you hear about the run through a brick wall, but he's just a perfectionist. And there was like another ground staff duty that I had. I had to do the home dressing room, but you had to clean the carpet. But it was like a tile, and it was the hairiest carpet ever. So every blade of grass would stick on it, and you had to brush it. You weren't allowed to use a hoover; you had to use a brush. And I had to do that for about a year, and it was horrendous. And it wasn't until nobody tells you in the time. It's like, say when you're coaching in those days, you don't know why you're doing a certain session. You just do it. And then I was thinking, why are we doing it? It's easier with a brush. It's easier with a vacuum cleaner. And obviously it's to make you mentally tough and the whole time break you. And obviously that doesn't happen these days, but it's great. It's a great grounding for you.
Oh no, absolutely. And I think, like you say, I suppose that's out of the game now, isn't it? In that sense, sort of apprentices and that don't seem to be, don't have that kind of grounding that you were talking about. But I'm sure there's, plenty of other stories from your time at Aberdeen. But obviously you grew up there as a footballer. Was it a hard decision when you went to Rangers then? Was it hard to sort of leave Aberdeen and leave the sort of
it was very
difficult, really?
Yeah, because about a couple of years later or earlier, when I was about 18, 19, Liverpool, Kenny Dalglish called my dad. Obviously Ferguson tried to get me to go to Manchester United. David Pleat tried to get me to go to Tottenham. So there was a lot of interest, but when my contract was coming to an end at Aberdeen, there was not the big clubs, but Rangers obviously came in, and obviously my dad's an Aberdeen supporter. So, I remember when I told him, look, I'm going to sign for Rangers, he wasn't too happy, and he made a mistake. And to be honest, I didn't know anything about the religious part or anything. If you know anything about Aberdeen in those days, Aberdeen was it was such a sheltered place. It was almost cut off from the rest of the world.
Right.
So I didn't really know what I was letting myself in for. But my thought was, I'm still going to be playing against the same players in the same stadiums. All I'm doing is going to a bigger club. So I thought, and it turned out to be a good transition. But my dad wasn't happy about it. Obviously, Aberdeen weren't happy about it. But I even got death threats when I went to sign for Rangers. The newspaper cuttings and I'm going to kill you, and I know where you live and all that kind of stuff. So I had all that. But I was young and naive, and I never told anyone. I just thought, I'm a nobody really. So when I eventually signed for Rangers, I remember when I went back to play against Aberdeen, it was horrendous. They would throw coins at me, they'd spit on me, and if I'm taking a throw in, they'd punch me and that. So, but then after the end of the first season, when I think we won the cup, the league and the cup, Scottish Cup. After that, my dad said, "You know what? It's the best decision you've ever made." So that meant a lot to me, because he came. To be fair, he would come to every Rangers game to watch me play, even though he was an Aberdeen supporter.
Yeah.
And eventually he just said, look, it's the best thing you've done.
Was it hard to sort of, did that sort of peter out that negativity towards you whenever you went back to Aberdeen? Because obviously you were at Rangers for quite a few years after that.
It was the same all the time, every time. Right. Even what they would do was, outside Pittodrie, the main gate the main door is very close to where the bus is out, there's only the pavement. Aberdeen supporters would come up to you and hand you an autograph book to sign, and they'd kick you in the shins and leave you the book.
That's unbelievable, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was just, it's. I found that all the stick I used to, they'd sing songs about them and they'd do all sorts, but it G'd me up even more, motivated me even more. So it really backfired on them. Yeah,
I mean, I suppose throughout the years you'd have played with other players. Did you obviously see other lads get that kind of treatment, and how that affected them? To some sort of wilt, to some, obviously like yourself, maybe it spurs them on a bit more in that sense, if you've got the crowd on your back like that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too sure. I remember with a player, Dave McPherson, that happened to me a bit at Leeds as well. It's if an opposition crowd or fans are giving you a bit of stick, it motivates you. But I remember seeing it, I was at Leeds and I got a bit of stick from Leeds United fans, and you end up just going downhill.
Yeah.
Because your own fans don't believe in you and they're having a go. And I find that very, very difficult. But I always thought to myself, well, if they're giving me a bit of stick, it's because I'm obviously causing them problems of some sort. It G'd me up even more.
No, that's incredible. And obviously you had that really sort of successful time at Rangers, obviously part of the 6 of the subsequent 9 in a row. I've been up to Ibrox a few times, actually. Some of my best mates are Rangers fans, and obviously it's an incredible place to play football. Well, sorry, I haven't played there. Incredible place to watch football, obviously. Yeah. You've played there, but it's it's a completely different institution from what I've sort of seen. I've travelled around watching football all over the place, and it's just something different about sort of, I suppose, playing football at somewhere like Ibrox and somewhere like that. You know, the atmosphere there. But what was that first sort of game like for you? That debut, the crowd and all that.
I find the Rangers, it's like Aberdeen. It's still a big club. It's relatively smaller compared to it. And it's funny, as soon as you walk in that doors at Ibrox, and every player's the same, it changes you as a person. Suddenly you become hooked on Rangers. Even if I've seen players that had a 15-year career and maybe gone 6 months at Rangers, but Rangers are their team. Yeah, it's just the supporters, and I think it's I think for me, when I look at the club, we had guys like John Brown and Richard Gough and Alan McCoist, and real Rangers men that love the club, and they're almost like supporters playing for the club. The passion, and then the passion that supporters have, and how much you have to win every single game. And I remember that the first game we played, it's actually quite funny because the one thing that sticks out, we beat St Johnstone 6-0 at Ibrox. But what stuck me the most was how easily penalty kicks were given. Because I'd been on the receiving end at Aberdeen. You go to Celtic Park, you go to Ibrox, and you think, how is that a penalty kick? So remember, we actually played St Johnstone, and it must have been at the first 10 minutes, a big ball goes in the box, and Hateley goes up with a guy called John Ingalls, and there was nothing in it. Penalty kick. And I'm going, how is that a penalty kick? But you can tell that's the one thing that really stuck out in my mind that first game, and also the size. I played at Ibrox before, but the size of the pitch, it seemed to be massive, and I don't know if it's because the crowd, but the crowd, like it was like non-stop for 90 minutes. There's always noise, there's always something, and I say, as soon as and I had a good game the first game, and I was accepted by the supporters, which was the main thing, and after, I just loved every second that I've played there.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, going into that dressing room, like you say, you've already alluded to some of them, some incredible characters there. Like, is it quite hard to sort of, are they quite tight knit in that sort of thing? And does it take a while to break into that, or was it quite a welcoming sort of place? Because as you say,
I was, because you come from Aberdeen, and it's a very reserved place. People are very reserved, and there's no famous people in Aberdeen. So you come to Rangers, and just the size of the club, and you think, oh my God. So you walk in the door, and there's a commissioner, Stan. He then puts you to Jimmy Bell. He takes you down to the dressing room, and you walk in. In those days, there was Mark Walters, there was Mark Hateley, Alan McCoist, Ian Durrant, Richard Goff, Mikhailichenko, like really superstars. And I remember walking in, I'm thinking, why am I here? I shouldn't be here. I'm in the wrong place. And I was very intimidated by it. And the kit man, Jimmy Bell, says to me, he says, look, in those days there was no squad numbers, but he had a training number. So he says, okay, here you go. This is your number. It's Terry Butcher. You've got used to fill. And I'm thinking, talk about putting pressure on me straight away. So I go in there, and to be fair, on the day I left Rangers, he did say, you've certainly filled his shoes, which was a big compliment. But then you go in, and I was close to the sort of Ali McCoist, Ian Durrant, Ian Ferguson, Mark Hateley, that corner. And that's where my number was round about there. And I was always quiet. But the one thing I thought about Rangers, unlike any other club, is that there was so many superstars there, but no one thought they were better than anybody else. And I found that amazing. Obviously, Paul Gascoigne joined, and then Brian Laudrup and these guys. And Gaza was actually nervous about going into the dressing room. But everybody's just made to feel welcome. There's no, even though we had a big squad in those days with a lot of big name players, Walter Smith had a good way of making everybody happy and keeping everybody. No one got annoyed with each other that they weren't playing or anything, and everybody was a real togetherness. And we had a few nights out together, and just it was the 6 years passed in a flash, and I just wish that you could go back and do it again.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, just really quickly before we move on, sort of touch on, Paul Gascoigne's probably the best player I've ever seen live. Obviously, I've been on a pitch or training pitch or playing with him. Yeah. How good was he as a player? Obviously, we can see it as a fan, but when you're actually on the pitch with him, I know there was some incredible talents at Rangers, but from my perspective, probably the best player I've ever seen was Paul Gascoigne. Yeah,
no, he was good. I was very fortunate at the time. There was Brian Laudrup and Paul Gascoigne at the same time, and the two of them, they just did their own thing. And the one game you've probably seen it when we won. It was our 8th championship. We were 1-0 down against Aberdeen, and he ran the whole length of the park, scored a goal, also a penalty kick and that. But he basically won the game that day. In such a pressure game, he was just. But even off the pitch, he was such a good guy. It's a shame the way he is now.
Yeah.
But he was so generous. He would leave money at like a petrol station and say to the guy, look, any kids that come in, buy them sweets and do whatever.
Wow.
He's just a very, very generous guy. And, I think at times he gets portrayed a little bit, unjust really. But ability-wise, I just found that he had this knack of using his arms and body well. And on the ball, it's very, very difficult. Not even just to tackle, but to actually get close to the ball. The ball always seemed to be just too far away for you to get off the ball. But, an incredible talent.
No, absolutely. And then, obviously, moving on to then, you went to Leeds. Obviously, you went into the Premier League, and was it George Graham who signed you at the time? Was that?
The same way, yeah.
Yeah. What obviously, it must have been hard to leave Rangers in that sense. But was it Why was the sort of motivation for that? Really, was it the new challenge
I've been at Rangers. I've played in Scotland for, I think it was 11 or 12 seasons. And then you play each team 4 times a season, plus cup games. And then it's almost like there's only so many times you can play against Jim McInally or and Derek White or somebody. It's like sometimes you're playing them 5-6 times a season. And I just felt I was 27 at the time, 28, that I just needed a chance to go somewhere else. And believe it or not, it was just the January window just before I was going to leave. Rangers wanted to keep me. That I feel that Walter Smith was going to move on.
Right.
And felt that I didn't want to be a player to end up in the reserves at Rangers, because if somebody comes in, they're going to have their own ideas. That was one of the reasons. But then in the transfer window, I was virtually about a day away from signing for Inter Milan.
Really?
Roy Hodgson was the manager there, so he was going to go there. But then he lost a game and he was told he can't sign any more players until the following week. And he'd do it again, so that was out. And then at that point, I got offered, coming to the end of the season, Atletico Madrid, Valencia, Torino, a lot of big clubs. And then I remember I was in Italy with my agent, and George Graham kept calling my agent. And it was the perseverance of George Graham that I decided to go there. And he told me that he tried to sign me when he was at Arsenal as well. And obviously I didn't know about that.
No.
That's what he said. And then I signed for Leeds United. But the biggest problem I had at Leeds United was my knee. I didn't even know I had a bad injury in my knee. So I went to get a scan. It was actually my wife's birthday. And it was the day that Middlesbrough got relegated. I think it was nothing each for Leeds and Middlesbrough. Middlesbrough went down. I couldn't go to the game because I got the scan done. And they said, have you got a problem with your left knee? And I said, no, I've got no problem at all. And he says, well, you've got no ACL, no cruciate ligament. So it turns out medical records went back and forth. And basically it turned out that I'd done injury 5 years ago that I wasn't told about. So I didn't know about it. And because my legs must have been strong enough, plus I didn't know. I played 5 years with it, not knowing I had a problem. So with all the wear and tear, it must have obviously sort of withered away. So then George Graham was so desperate to get it done that he was going to be on holiday that night, and he said it has to get done. So I think if it was any other club, it wouldn't have happened, but he pushed it. And obviously because I played 5 years. But I remember walking out of the scan place, and I developed a limp. And then it was in my head, and then I played about 30 games at Leeds, and came down a header against Leicester, and my knee just went. But I think it was because I knew it in my head. It's tough to leave Rangers, but I just felt a new challenge, because if you waited any longer, that time was going to go.
Yeah, I suppose it's the and even going abroad, I suppose that would have been, the excitement of all of that. Do you sort of regret the fact that, I know obviously injury aside, even if that hadn't happened, would you rather have gone abroad looking back now, or was it at the time that it still felt like the right thing to do, I suppose?
I think I'd love to have gone into Milan. That would have been massive. I think Paul Ince was there at the time, and Zanetti and those guys were there. So that would have been a great experience. I do wish that I'd had after having gone coaching in America and India and stuff, I'd love to have, played abroad. But I think to myself, if that had happened, I got my medical there, maybe those deals wouldn't have happened.
No, that's true. No, I was just going to say, on a personal note, I ruptured my ACL a few years ago, and I was in agony. So for you to play on for 5 years is just, from a personal level, it's unbelievable. Honestly, it's incredible.
I think it's because you mentally don't know. But as soon as I knew, suddenly I was different,
Yeah, it's true. I suppose, it's that in your head, isn't it? But I've got to say, that's incredible respect for you for that, because I was off work for ages and all sorts. But anyway, that's not about me, about you. So obviously, you sort of alluded to that. You got an incredible dressing room at Leeds, but I suppose being injured. I suppose if just to ask you really, because you're injured for a large part of that, is it how much are you involved really? Because I suppose some managers have different sort of approaches, don't they? Some like to keep you involved, maybe others prefer you to be a bit more out of the way. What was it like at Leeds? Because obviously you were there for a few years, but because of the injury.
Yeah, no, it was good. George Graham was always great with me. He really looked after me. And when I first got the injury, when I hurt my knee, there, he obviously he told me to go away on holiday for a couple of weeks, and he was very good, looked after me, quite a lot. And there was Eddie Gray there as well, which was good. I think the hardest part was David O'Leary was George Graham's assistant, and George left to go to Tottenham. He tried to take David O'Leary with him, but he stayed as a coach, and I thought, oh, this is quite good. I've got a decent chance here. But by the time I got fully fit, I was out for a full season.
Right, yeah.
The second season I was out. So obviously Ian Hart was in the team doing great. And I knew that the writing was on the wall. And then the following season, you go into training, you're on your own because it's such a lengthy recovery, as you know. You see everybody going out training, you can't train, you're stuck in the treatment room. Then you start to go through the stages of walking and jogging and all that stuff, and it just seems miles and miles away. And before I knew it, and you're so detached. At times I didn't even go to the games because I felt it. I felt it really hard going to watch games knowing that I can't play.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. It's
halfway through that season I knew that when I eventually got fit I wasn't going to get back in the team because of obviously Ian Hart was doing well, and all these Vidukas were in the team then. And they were even building up a stronger team. So the following season, the third season, O'Leary wanted to move me on. He says, "Okay, it's time. You need to go." And I said, "But," because at that point he wasn't playing in the reserve games, nothing.
Really,
I was sitting in the bomb squad kind of thing. So the funny part was that he started to play in a few reserve games, and then I went to train at Barnsley for a few days with a view to going on loan, and I played Sunderland away in a reserve game just to see what I thought and everything. And I remember I was up against Kevin Colban. He was
right, yeah.
I don't know if he was a young kid at the time, I don't know. And I obviously must have done well enough, having not played for about 18 months. So Dave Bassett wanted me to go on loan.
Right.
And then my knee was huge the next morning after the game. And my agent called me and he says, "Bassett wants you to go on loan. Leeds have agreed for you to go on loan and everything." I goes, "Oh, okay." I looked at my knee and I says, "When's the next?" This was a Monday morning or Tuesday morning. "When's the next game?" "Well, Friday, then Monday, then for." So I had to sit and make an excuse that I can't go.
Yeah.
Turned it down. I'll never forget walking back into Thorpe Arch training ground. Everybody's going, "Oh, he's back." Oh. I made up some excuse that I didn't fancy of that, but shortly after that, I was playing a few more reserve games. I wasn't training a lot, playing the reserve games, and then Aberdeen and Dundee both wanted to take me back to Scotland because they came to watch me in a game. And then the next day I played against, I think it was Aston Villa. Steve Stone was in the reserves, and after the game I just thought, I can't play anymore. And I got an operation from a surgeon. It was like a clear out, and he said, "Look, you can't play at that level anymore."
No.
And it was all like a relief when he told me, because I'd just been struggling it was almost 2 years, and it was almost like a horse with a shot.
That sort of closure, isn't it? Yeah, in that sense.
Yeah.
Because am I right in thinking then you sort of, obviously that happened, then you had a bit of time out, went to Montrose, and then did you snap your Achilles as well? Is that correct?
Yeah. Yes.
That sounds the most horrendous. Oh gosh.
It's actually a bizarre story how I got involved in coaching, because I had no real interest in coaching. When I played, I was going to retire and do whatever. And then as I was injured, Leeds would let me do some community stuff, the community programs and stuff, a little bit of coaching, not a lot. And then we went to Thailand and Vietnam. There was 5 of us went out there coaching, and then we started to play, what do you call it, like charity games. Yeah. And then when I came back, I was playing games with like Sir Peter Lorimer and all those guys. And I mean, Peter Lorimer he's always been he's a bit heavier than I was, and he's a lot older. And I'm playing, and I'm thinking, I'm actually quite good here, but I forget that I'm about 20 years younger than everybody else. So then I get this in my head that I can play again, and a friend said to me, "Oh, John Sharon up at Montrose, he's heard you're playing, you want to come back as a player coach?" I goes, "Oh, I'll come back." And you think to yourself, this could be a good thing. And it was more about playing than the coaching part. So I did a little bit of coaching. But the funny part was that it's the lowest level that I played at. Yeah. And I found it so difficult because my fitness wasn't great. And I remember, because I was a relatively, well-known person, so you're playing at Montrose and there's about 500 people come to the games. In the first half, we're playing against Queen's Park and Queen's Park supporters. So there's only about 20 of them. They're beside me and they're slaughtering me. They're giving me such a hard time. And I'm walking in at half-time, I'm thinking, oh, thank God it's half-time. At least the second half I won't be close to them. But they walked around in the second half again.
I think that's the beauty of that sort of level of football, isn't it? That kind of thing.
But then you think of yourself like, okay, I just finished playing at Leeds. Okay, I was guys at Lee Sharp, Hasselbank, and Gary Kelly, Radaby, all these guys, and the Rangers, Gascoigne, and Laudrup. And it's I'm not saying anything against the guys, but then I'm playing against these guys at part time, and I'm thinking, I'm hopeless. I'm really bad.
No. Well, I was going to say, because obviously, you said you were there, but you obviously played for your country as well. I suppose the difference between the two would be huge. Obviously, you were saying about your dad following your sort of career as well in that sense. It must have been such an amazing moment to sort of play for your country, like sort of telling us about that really in that sense.
Well, it was a bit of a letdown, really. Because,
really?
Yeah, I played like under 16 all the way under 22 in the B internationals, and I quite enjoyed them. But then maybe it was because it was a friendly game. I hadn't long signed for Rangers, and you're playing these big games and what have you. And it was Northern Ireland at home. It was a friendly game. And I thought to myself, this is going to be the highlight, the pinnacle of my career. So I get there and the game, it's dull, and I'm thinking, it's better. Playing for Rangers is better.
Yeah.
And then I think I only played 3 times, but Craig Brown and Andy Roxburgh, who, in my opinion, are the most successful, of modern era Scotland managers, the last team to take them to major championships. But they had a thing, they liked Tom Boyd and Tosh McKinlay, which, as I say, I've got no gripe about it. And I just felt that every time I went away, it's almost a week away, you're from Rangers and from your family. And all you're doing is sit in a hotel. You know you're not going to play unless somebody's injured or whatever. It was almost like if there's, I think they picked 22. So if there was all 22 showed up, I'd be in the stand. And if it was a few call-offs and I was 18, I'd be a sub. And then it had to really be a mass plague before I would in the team. So eventually, maybe it's a little bit naive at the time, but I just says to, I think it was Craig Brown at the time, look, I don't want to sound big-headed or anything. I said, look, if I've got a chance of playing, pick me. But if not, I'd rather just stay at home because, I used to lose a bit of confidence because I was never the most confident player in my own ability anyway. And, being away and sitting in a stand, eating in a hotel, hardly training. Because the game on a Wednesday, you don't train because the team's playing. Thursday, you travel. So you missed 2 or 3 days of training. So I always came back and I felt lethargic. And I just said, look, Rangers are more important than Scotland, And I'm glad because people says to me, would you rather change for more caps? And I wouldn't change anything.
No, I think that's it's very admirable of you to sort of say that really, because I think it's it's quite easy to just keep chasing that, isn't it? And I suppose I think sometimes we maybe nowadays just see sort of top level footballers and just think it's all about the sort of money and all of that sort of thing, and you get lost in the fact that actually you're human beings, aren't you? You have a family to think about, you have all of that, and actually being away from home and all of the things that come with playing with that. But obviously then, so we sort of obviously spoke about your career in that sense, and then going into managing. So just really quickly, in terms of the lower leagues in Scotland, going from being sort of an elite footballer, playing the Scottish Premiership, winning all the leagues, etc., and then sort of coaching and managing in the lower leagues, was that tough? Because there obviously comes a reputation in England and in Scotland, lower league football, a bit sort of thuggish, long ball, that kind of thing. Was that actually how it played out, and how did you find that transition going from?
I think the style of play is different. The teams that won the leagues, there's a team called East Fife. They would just get the ball forward and play for second balls. But the one thing that got me was, as I say, I've been spoilt. You're treated, really well as a professional footballer, and you take everything for granted, like kits and like everything you get. Like I was sponsored by High Tech for about 10 years, and you're well looked after. And I'll never forget, I got offered this job at Elgin. I left Montrose. I was at Montrose, and Elgin approached me to be the manager. It was the late Dennis Miller. He was the vice chairman at Aberdeen, but he was the chairman at Elgin City at the time. So he asked if I'd, be interested. So, I was 32. I was the youngest manager in Britain at the time, believe it or not, 32. Wow. And I wasn't ready for it. I wasn't prepared for it. And I remember I went to the game and watched the game, introduced to the players. Had just been a flood, so there was porta cabins.
Right.
And then, so I knew I was walking into a bit of a disaster, really. And on the Tuesday night, I remember I've got my session plan, what I'm going to do, the stadium, the wee stadium that they've got. And there was about 6 players there. Wow. And I guess, where's the players? Oh, well, some of them train in Glasgow, some of them train in Inverness. What's his name? Davy Ross, I think he's from further away than Brora. He can only manage to come on a Thursday because he's got about 2 boats to get there.
Oh my God.
So in virtually all my time there for a certain period, the first year, the whole team was never at training.
No.
And I thought to myself, it can be difficult if you've got a team to get them, because they would only been in the league 5 years or something, because we were in the high league before that. They were always second bottom or bottom, second bottom or bottom. And I just find that it was like, it can't be that difficult. And then I realised it's impossible, because you can't do anything. No. You know, they were together for pre-season. So then what I decided to do was, we got a government grant to do a skill seekers program. So we had a number of full-time players, and we ended up 5th in the league. We just missed out on the playoffs. Then the following year, we were actually in the playoff positions, and then there was going to be a takeover with somebody I knew, and it all fell apart at the last minute. So I stopped after that. But we were actually in the playoff positions at the time. So I just find the things you take for granted and things you can't. I remember one time we had they do so-called random drug testing.
Right.
So I was in Elgin, and we were playing against Montrose, and there was half-time. They come in at half-time, and they basically say they've drawn it out of a hat. These are the guys. So I had a couple of wayward characters on my team. So I couldn't believe at half-time it says, okay, Alec Bowen and Wayne Addicoat they've been picked for the drug test. And I'm thinking, well, Wayne Addicoat's a sub. He hasn't even got on, right? And I'm thinking, if I was to hand-pick 2 people to test, it would be those 2.
Right.
And it turns out Wayne Addicoat actually failed.
Oh, no.
So it was like, so it's just, it was a baptism of fire. Because I remember there was this hill that John Milton was the club secretary. You'd see him walking over. He only came to training at night if there was a problem. And the guy, Wayne Addicoat, he played the game and never saw him again.
Right.
I see him, right? And then one night I just see John walking over a hill, and I'm thinking, oh, right, okay, I know what's coming here.
Oh man, that's incredible. I think it's in some ways it's what makes it so exciting and enjoyable. You know, our sort of podcast, we don't, always focus on the Premier League and all that. There's so much of that out there. It's actually quite nice to hear that side of the game, really, in that sense. Yeah. Which sort of leads us on to, obviously, then you've probably been asked a lot about this recently, but obviously the sort of journey then to Real Kashmir and all of that. I suppose that I didn't realise the whole story at Elgin. That maybe gave you a bit of a grounding for what was to come then when you went to, obviously.
Well, I actually thought, after thinking back in Elgin, I thought there can't be anything worse than that.
Obviously, I mean, you've been in the media a lot about it, so I'll try not to ask you the sort of same old questions. But I suppose going over there, was it, in terms of the motivation for that, was it maybe just that there wasn't any of the right jobs in the UK for you that because I imagine there would have been plenty of opportunities for you, or was it literally like you were saying earlier, that yearning to go abroad and maybe experience something different in that sense?
Well, we'd actually been moved to America for 10 years.
Yes, yeah.
And I coached, I basically ran a large soccer kids, youth and whatever, the whole program, and that was enjoyable. And then I did the USL Phoenix FC, which is now Phoenix, where Drogba was. So it was that gave me the bug to think I need to get back to the real competitive part of it. So believe it, in the space of about 2-3 months, I was offered, and I hadn't really been offered jobs before. I got offered a job in China, which, thinking back, I should have taken that one. But I didn't do that one. And then I got offered a job in Uganda. A club called FC Villa, and I don't know what. And then at the same time, the Kashmir thing came. An agent just called me up out of the blue. I didn't even know the agent. Says, "Okay, got this job for you here." And where is it? Oh, it's India. It's I-League 2. And I goes, "All right, I'll have a go at it."
Yeah.
And I didn't even know anything about India. I didn't realise that Kashmir is the only state in India that's got 4 seasons, and it's got worse winters than you have here. So, and I didn't even know it was an agent basically said to me, "Oh, look at the pictures." And to be fair, it's a lovely
Yeah.
place. You know, it's a very scenic place in the Himalayas and whatnot. And then I did no research at all. So I didn't even know it was a war zone, nothing. I just had no idea. So I think New Year's Eve in 2016, I jumped on the plane and no idea, because, you know, the only thing I knew about India was An Idiot Abroad with Carol Pilkington. That's the only thing that I can relate to India. And I thought that, well, it must be warm everywhere there. So I got on that plane, and, you know, it's been a remarkable journey. But that first time when you land in Delhi and you think, okay, it's not bad. Delhi's okay.
Yeah.
Then you get to Srinagar in Kashmir, and it's a military airport. So as soon as you go off the plane, every second person's got guns, and they're all Indian Army. And then the guy slaps this thing on your chest. It's a foreign registration that you've got to fill out. And then I got picked up, and you get taken through, and every street's got, like, you know, soldiers with guns and everything. And it was the first, after 3 weeks I left and went home. I couldn't do it. It was just too much. You know, I went there to train, and again, it's like, you know, you're used to, you think they've got everything, but the players didn't have training kit, so they're wearing like Man United jackets and what have you. They took their own ball. There was very little cones and bibs. There was no nets on the goals. I mean, it was in the stadium we use today, and I didn't know anyone. And when I got there, the internet had been cut off. There was no internet.
Yeah.
So the government have just got this knack of pressing a button and internet's gone. So at any time there's any shootings or killings, that's cut off. And then in winter, because it was winter time, I think the second day I got there, it was snow. It was about 2 foot of snow. So I was told that, well, you can't train today, but we've got an indoor place for you. So I thought, okay, fine, we'll do an indoor place, not a problem. So a guy picks me up, takes me there, and I go into this. It's like a tiny little room, a green carpet, windows all the way around it, 2 ceiling fans. And I thought this must be a reception to go into school, gym, hall, or whatever. He said, no, this is where you're training.
Right.
Said, all right. 26 adults. I'm like, oh my God. So then the following day we trained there again. And I had a driver that would take me to where I was staying. And I was standing there, and as I'm waiting for the driver to come, people were putting furniture back in the house. It was it was somebody's house. Sofas and TVs were going back to somebody's house. And then what happens is, because I was living in one of the owner's houses at the time, and it was horrendous, because winter time, what they do is the Kashmir sell electricity to other parts of India. So each state or each area in Srinagar or Kashmir have 3 times a day you don't have electricity for 2 hours.
Right.
So at times you think that I'd forget all the time. You think, because the Premiership, English Premiership was on maybe 8 o'clock. It used to get 3 games, 5, 7, or 9, or whatever. So you think, I'll sit down and watch it. Then power goes out.
Oh gosh, of course, yeah.
And then you think, you get up in the morning and you think, right, okay, I really fancy a cup of coffee. Electric's off, kettle can't work. So
just different world, isn't it?
I can't call home. There's no internet. There's no TV. And, you know, 3 weeks, I left after about 3 or 4 weeks, and I came back, and I did that again another harsh winter before I moved into the hotel. But it was that first part, you know, even the fact that, you know, culturally I've always been in either the USA or the UK, so it's what I shouldn't really say, but it's more civilized.
Yeah.
So I remember one night first when I got there, I was so unhappy, and I said to the owner, look, I need to leave. I need to get out here. And he says, well, what to do is we'll get somebody. In fact, I hadn't met the owner. It was the night I first met the owner. So this guy took me, pitch black, so there's no electricity. And we get there, and there's like a mat on the carpet with all the food,
right?
Silver bowls. They've all got the skull caps on, and it was just and they start to eat with their hands, and I'm thinking, oh my God, what is this? And obviously I know all these people now, and they're great guys, but at the time it was like scary. I'd never seen it.
Yeah, no, of course.
Things you see in the television, I think, where am I? I can't believe I'm here.
No.
And then I left after that, and then quite quickly after that, they persuaded me to come back and manage to, make a half decent job of it.
I've got to say, I mean, I've watched both documentaries, and you know, we love them on our sort of thing, and it's definitely the best football documentary I've seen was both of yours. But there's one point recently in the second one with the dogs when you were trying to find the internet. I genuinely thought something bad was going to happen. When I think you have to try and find a sort of internet place that you know you weren't allowed to see, but there was just rabid dogs everywhere and everything. I mean, that for me put it into context that it was you know what you're experiencing was so much more than football. But just the last question on that I want to ask you really was, you know, were you aware of the impact that sort of, you know, those documentaries and that being made about your time there? Were you aware of the impact that was having on sort of people like me and everyone else watching it? Because it felt such an amazing experience, but also it had such an impact on, you know, how football works over there and all of that. Were you aware of that and just how inspirational it was really?
I remember when Greg first came with the idea, because he was actually, believe it or not, he's a cousin of Derek Lilly that I played at Leeds with.
Right, yeah.
So he spoke to me a little bit, and he said, "Look, it's a long shot if it's going to work. Are you up for it?" I goes, "Yeah, I'll have a go at it." And then before you know it, he actually asked me to do a trial story on the thing, just to see if I was okay in camera and what. So I had to tell the story, and this is, I mean, there's been so many bizarre stories, but this story is the most bizarre one that I've ever had. So it was before League Two, before we played League Two and won League Two. We're in this tournament at a place called Bandipora. So it's about a 4 or 5 hour journey. So I was in a car, the team went on a bus. It wasn't the same team I've got now, it was a lot of locals and whatever. So I remember we're driving, and the road is getting smaller and narrower and narrower. And I'm thinking, where are we going here? And we're going up in mountains and hills, and then somebody says, like, see over that hill there, that's Pakistan over there. And I'm going, all right, okay. So then the owner, Shamim, says, look, well, because you're probably the first European or first non-Indian to come to this, it's a village, Bandipora, there'll probably be about 3,000-4,000 people there just to see it. So what to do is there's a little stand, you come and sit up with me. I goes, okay, fair enough. So we get there, and it's relatively empty, and the owner says, look, they've put a rope around the pitch to keep if there's any crowd. So in India, everybody's late at showing up. So we're doing a warm-up, and suddenly this place is getting busier and busier and busier. Turns out there was 20,000 people there, just held by a rope. So so we're in the dressing room. It's got a corrugated iron dressing room. So I'm standing, I'm talking to the team, and I thought somebody got shot because it was a kid that kicked a ball off the corrugated iron on the outside. Right. Everybody was in a panic. Come out. So we come out, and it was the first floodlit game they had in this village. So you know it's going to be a disaster, right? So the game starts, the rope is round, and I'm safe enough. And then the lights go out, power cut. So everybody's on the pitch, because half of them had never even been to a football game before. The rope was down, so there's no rope at all. So they're going on the pitch, and eventually they managed to get them off. But they're actually standing on the lines of the pitch. So the ball's not going out, there's no throw-ins, it's like 5 sides, it's coming out and people are coming back in. I'm thinking, oh my God. So then we score a goal. And then they're back on the pitch again. I'm like, oh my God. So then they managed to clear them off. But by this time, they're actually like, you know, a foot on the pitch. The pitch is getting smaller as well. So half-time comes. We can't go back to the dressing room because there's too many people. So we're doing a dressing room, and there's people all around listening to what we're saying and whatever. Second half goes. 10 minutes to go, the other team score a goal. They're back on the pitch again. And by this time, it's total chaos. It's a disaster. So, and it turns to get a little bit ugly. Yeah. So our kit man comes across Ishfaq, and he says, Coach, look. And he's holding this fence post. Right. And he says, what? He says, Azra, so we had a player called Azra. Somebody'd hit him over the head with a fence post. So at this point, I'm the only white person there. Right. And it's beginning to get a bit ugly now. So one of the drivers grabs me and basically pushes me back to this car, into the car. I'm in the back of this car, all cuddled up in the back of this car, and we're going through these streets just to get away from it all.
That is unbelievable, isn't it?
But after this, right, so it was a semi-final, and they said, right, you need to come back and play the semi-final. I goes, oh, I'm not coming back. He says, well, I says, okay, if you play Monday morning at 9 o'clock when everybody's at work, okay, we'll do that. You can come back and play the last 10 minutes. Because not in 5 hours for 10 minutes. So eventually we played the whole game. But that was the most bizarre thing that ever happened to me.
Yeah, it's like, I know obviously that wasn't necessarily on that documentary, but you just get that impression of the whole thing. But I've got to be honest, it's incredibly inspirational, your story, and seeing it out on the TV. So even for, sort of, so I do coaching myself, obviously not the same as you, but, in that sense of just seeing, I think there's bits that are relatable to that, even like I coach at a semi-pro team, but when you're waiting for another team to get off of the plastic pitch and all of that, and I know in the recent one, but obviously you've got a match to play, that's completely different, it's just, I think there's so many bits of inspiration in there, but to hear those stories is just,
that's good, yeah.
Fascinating. I've got to say, I don't know how you do it, but it's definitely the best bit of TV I've watched in a long while. So thank you very much for doing it for that reason alone. But anyway, that's but yeah, I just want to move on to some just some really quick fire questions, and then we'll get on to your favourite games. So really quickly, so your best player you've played with?
Brian Laudrup.
Best player you played against?
Probably Mark Overmars.
Oh gosh, yeah, incredible. He was, I remember he was.
You see the bit of face about him, yeah.
And this one I was really intrigued because you've had some incredible ones, but the best manager, because you've had some amazing managers you've played for, haven't you? Really,
I'd probably say Walter Smith.
Yeah.
Just because it was the most successful time, and Alex Ferguson obviously went on to bigger and better things. But Walter Smith was great for me, and the one thing he told me was first sign was, "You look after me, and I'll look after you." And I think he gave me one King in 6 years. So.
Oh, really? That's incredible. Yeah. So obviously the name of the series is my favourite game, so we've got onto that. I mean, I've got to be honest, the build up to this has been incredible. So thank you so much for that. But normally we just get people from sort of all over the place from football, and they have their favourite game as a fan. But obviously you've been an elite footballer. We'll kick off with your favourite game as a player, and then if you tell us about your favourite game that you haven't been directly involved in, so one that you've watched maybe on TV or been in the stands or something like that. So first one as a player, what was your favourite football match?
The first one was, I think it was the year Rangers won the treble. So it was just the whole build up to the game. So obviously coming from Aberdeen, signing for the Rangers from Aberdeen, Aberdeen supporters hated me, and as a young player getting in the team, I was fortunate enough to play with Willie Miller and Alec McLeish. Alec McLeish was great. He was, very supportive, and he looked after me a little bit. Willie Miller was just, for the 2 or 3 years that he played in the team, come to the end of his career, he would just slaughter me all the time. And I would never shout back at him, because the Panini stickers, I used to collect stickers, and Willie Miller was on it. And I would just think, okay. But I'm not saying he made my life a misery, but it made it tough. Because he was such a fan's favourite, he would get the ball, and his use of the ball was never the best. So he'd get the ball, and he'd like pass the ball to me, and it would go straight over my head into the stand. And he'd go like that to me, and all the supporters were going, they turned on me, the supporters turned on me, and I'm thinking, how did I get it? Because Willie came home. So that season, Willie Miller was the manager of Aberdeen.
Right.
He became the manager. So we beat them in the League Cup final 2-1. I crossed one, and Gary Smith scored an own goal. Then we beat them in the league. And I think any other year, Aberdeen would have had enough points to win the league. It's just that we virtually never lost. I don't know why. Maybe lost one game. And then in the final, the Scottish Cup final, going for the treble, the game, because Hampden was getting redone, so we're at Parkhead. So we played we obviously played at Parkhead, and we were actually in the home dressing room.
Oh gosh.
So you think about this, right? We're going for the treble, again in Celtic Stadium, in their home dressing room. William Miller was the manager of Aberdeen.
Yeah.
It wasn't the greatest game, but it's the most memorable game, and it's the most game that I just thought, I can't lose this game. And just at the end, you're celebrating in the Celtic home dressing room that you've won the treble. And then obviously see Willie Miller's face, he's all screwed up because he's all pissed off that he didn't win the game and all that. So that was probably not a real footballing part, but just the surroundings and the things attached to it was the best.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's quite often when we've done these interviews, even with pros, and they've all said it's not necessarily been their best game they've played, but it's all the other stuff that goes with it. Like you say, the sort of context of it is incredible. But obviously, as well as a player, you're a football fan. So what's the best football match you've ever seen? It could have been one on TV, or it could have been one you were actually physically at, or anything like that, really.
Well, it was, believe it or not, I was actually a ball boy.
Right, okay, yeah.
So Aberdeen when the year they won to beat Real Madrid in the Cup Winners' Cup.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you remember the quarter-final. So the Aberdeen were playing Bayern Munich with Rummenigge and all these guys. And Paul Breitner played. Yeah, massive. So the first leg was nothing each in the Olympic Stadium. So they come back to Pittodrie, and I think Aberdeen, they eventually win 3-2. And I'm behind the goal. And before the game, Fergie says to everybody, look, he comes in, he's dealing playing is one of the biggest games in the club's career in the history. He comes in with the little room where the ball boys are and tells us what to do. He actually physically comes in, and he's dealing with this big game, and he'll come in and he'll say, right, okay, if we're winning, don't get the ball, leave it. If we're losing, sprint to get the ball and get it back as quick as you can. So I'll never forget, we're running about getting the balls, and Bayern Munich score 1-0, and they've got the away goal. It was one each. The Bayern score to go 2-1 again, and there's about 10 minutes to go. And I think Gordon Strachan, and they do this mix-up free kick, and McLeish scores with a header, or somebody scores with a header. And then, so that's at 2 each, but Bayern Munich are still. And then the last kick of the ball, I remember I'm behind the goal, and I can watch a video of it, and you can still see me when they score.
Right.
And the last kick of the ball, John Hewitt scores like an overhead kick. And Pittodrie is such a tight stadium, small stadium, and in those days it was packed all the time. And again, it was just an exciting thing because Aberdonians are pretty negative people as well. So they think, that's us out, we're knocked out, that's us done, we're done. And then it was 2 each, usual, nothing. And then the winning goal was incredible, particularly against Bayern Munich. Just the whole occasion of the game was incredible. And, like John Hewitt, for example, he's that team is built up probably 50-60% of local players, which is, you never see that now.
No, that's what I was going to say. Even, I wouldn't know anywhere near as much as you, but that's one thing I even sort of knew is, the community in that time for Aberdeen, a lot of players, like you say, coming from that area, and obviously the impact that would have had would have just been, I suppose, incredible, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible. They had 2 players, Neil Cooper and Neil Simpson, 2 Aberdonians, centre midfield, 2 strikers, John Hewitt and Eric Black. Yeah. And then even the players that Fergie signed, Peter Weir was like 20,000 from St Mirren, and Gordon Strachan he came from Dundee. The amount of stars that he unearthed.
Yeah, it was incredible, wasn't it? But David, I've got to say that was absolutely incredible, and I really appreciate, especially given the technical issues I dealt with you at the beginning of the episode. I've got to say that was absolutely incredible, and it's easily the best interview we've done for one of these. I won't put you on the spot and find out what's happening next in your career, but obviously I wish you the best of luck in wherever you go from there. But David, thank you so much for that. It was incredible.
Okay, perfect. Okay, thanks a lot.